USA National Candidate section of the evening with our national vice president's candidates. Each candidate will have 6 minutes to speak, and then we will move on to question and answers. We will going in reverse alphabetical order of our candidates based by their last name, with the exception of our own past, our current president, JCI Michigan President Kaylee Gratz, who will go last. So we will start with Abigail Snyder, then Katie Nimitz, Nick Mayrand, Kevin Clark Holmes, Joseph Barry, and then finish with Kaylee Gratz. We will start with Abigail Snyder. Please welcome her to the stage.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see everybody again. I first wanted to start off with how wonderful this is. It's awesome to see all of your candidates and their hopes and dreams for Michigan. You guys are a powerhouse and definitely awesome to kind of see the inner workings of that. The second thing, I just want to say go team Northern NAA from 2023. I saw a lot of my fellow trainees and we got through it, and now you guys are moving up to bigger roles, and I think that that's awesome. I'm so excited for that. Um, if you haven't met me, my name's Abigail Snyder. If you've been to a national convention, you've probably heard me before you see me. I'm kind of a loud, boisterous person, but I have a lot of passion. And I was a Montana's 2024 state president. I'm originally from the Miles City chapter. I joined in 2018. I have been the secretary. I've been the treasurer and the chairman of board for 2 times. I was also the membership VP for the Montana State Board. I currently serve as the mental health program manager on the national level. I'm on the TOIA committee and I'm a brand ambassador. So just different roles, trying to stay involved. I'm a doer. I refer to myself as a doer uh, in that capacity of I can do things, I can make them happen. I don't see myself as a very creative person, but there are lots of wonderful creative people for me to help to go off their creative and make things happen. Professionally, I'm a licensed addiction counselor for the Department of Corrections. I have been for 10 years. I worked the last 8 years with adults. I just returned to working with juveniles. So I have a lot of feelings. And as you guys probably might have heard in my Chicago speech, feelings are a thing, right? And other things on top of that. Some initiatives that I want to see, or different things that I want to see going forward as an MVP, if I were to get the MVP position in 2026, is I want to see us invest in our members. And what I mean about that is like acknowledging our differences. One of the things that I love about the JCs is we don't push anybody out. We work with change. We have honest conversations. Uh, we don't judge on the front end of stuff. All of us are guilty of judging. It's kind of a human nature thing. At the same time, we can move past that. I myself has moved past that, and it seems like the time that I have judged someone, that person ends up being in the same room with me multiple times, and I have to get past that. And that's what shows me. That's how the universe shows me to say like, hey, don't be closed-minded. Um, I also want to be a sounding board for any members that have ideas or have struggles. I want to help finish the current programming that the national team has gotten going these last couple years. I think we have a lot of good things in place that are going to take off. And we've been reworking some stuff, and I want to help to carry that forward. I'd also like to help the organization get back on the map by picking an initiative to kind of be behind. I don't know, probably nobody in this room was here when the get out and vote happened because that was decades ago. At the same time, that was what the JCs was known for at that time. So I would like to see us put ourselves back on the map with something in that presence. And then, kind of lastly, I just believe in hitting issues with honesty and open conversations in a respectful way to increase leadership and skills in our members. I believe in honest conversations, at the same time, being professional about those and having empathy through those conversations. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Abigail. Now we will move on to Katie, National Vice President candidate Katie.
Well, good morning, y'all. My name is Katie Nims, and I am incredibly happy to join you this evening. I myself is actually a Michigan resident growing up in southwestern Michigan, a tiny town called Eau Claire. I'm going to show you because you guys actually get it. Let me tell you, nobody gets it, but I appreciate all of you. So I am now living in Missouri, but I have to say that Michigan shaped me and the JCs helped me find my voice. And I'm so excited to be here this evening with you. So I joined in 2018 after moving to St. Charles, after graduating college at Ferris State University. Go Bulldogs. I didn't know anyone, but I knew I wanted more out of this community and I looked for connection, growth, and purpose. And that's what I found in the JCs. Since then, I've served on the local chapter president. I have been on a variety of state roles in Missouri, and I served as the 103rd Missouri State President in 2024. Additionally, on JCI USA level, I've supported different committees, including the elections, communications. I was on that fun conventions committee last year, and this year I'm supporting the launch of PM Genie. I'm just doing some testing. I'm very excited to help. So at every level has taught me to lead with integrity, empathy, and of course, follow through. So growing up on the farm taught me to show up and do the work, even when no one's watching. And I truly believe that's how I lead today. My campaign that I'm very excited to share with you is heart, hustle, and human connection. And they aren't just words to me, that's how I live. Heart is all about leading with authenticity, caring deeply for our mission and our people. Hustle is about doing the work, making the phone calls with the local city officials, car rides to places you've never met or never been, to meet people you've never met, hoping for the best on parking and everything else. I've been those people who have been boots on ground for festivals, tough discussions during board meetings, and rebuilding chapters, mentoring members and solving problems. And human connection, it's what makes it all matter. We don't just build leaders. We build belonging. I truly want to see that we can have members across JCI USA feel seen, heard, and valued. These values have guided me through my JC career so far. It's going to be 8 years this coming May, and I am so excited. So this is a rebuilding season for many chapters in JCI USA, and that's full of opportunity. So I've been in those shoes, helping chapters regain momentum after membership dips, guiding new leaders through uncertainty, and keeping the energy alive through challenges times like remote meetings and limited resources. So let's not talk about 2020. But I mean, we're going to talk about it because, I mean, we're living in post. But we're not starting from scratch. Together, we've made real progress. Thanks to the strong history of this organization, the national programs, and the resources offered, the clarity provided by the strategic plan of action. I'm a project, I'm a planner. I love notes as well. Really great to hear it, Jessica. So the plan gives us focus and direction, but it needs leaders who will carry it forward with consistency, care, and action, and I'm ready to be one of those leaders. I bring experience from every level of the organization, a steady, clear communication style, and a deep belief in leadership. I don't claim to have all the answers. I'll be the first one to say it. But I'm willing to listen, adapt, and follow through because leadership is not about positions, but about partnerships. I want to be a trusted resource for all members, someone you can turn to. I have WhatsApp, send me a message. I want to be there to support, guide, and encourage everyone as we lead and grow personally. I'm not here to lead from above, but I want to lead alongside you and build something sustainable and meaningful. So from the tiny farm in Michigan with a graduating class of 45 to a JC's chapter in Missouri, this organization has helped me become the leader I am today. And I truly believe with heart, hustle, and human connection, I'm ready to serve. And I'd be honored to earn your vote this September for 2026 JCI USA National Vice President. Thank you so much, JCI Michigan.
Thank you, Katie. And on behalf of all of the 2020 pandemic state presidents, I appreciate the fact that you used the phrase, let's not talk about 2020, as opposed to let's forget about 2020 or pretend it never happened. So, on behalf of my fellow 2020 class presidents who always hear it the other way, thank you for phrasing it the way we appreciate it.
Of
We'll
course.
now move on to our next national vice president candidate, which is Mayrand. Nick?
Hey, JCI Michigan. Thank you, Sarah. I'm just going to call it out real quick. I am dressed a little differently than all of the other candidates. The Tigers are on Sunday Night Baseball, and living in Texas, I don't get to see them as much. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Nick Mayrand. I am originally from Michigan. My parents were Wyandotte JCs, so I grew up as a Michigan JC. I served in 2011 as a J-Teen local president and got to sit in on local chapters president's trainings with people like Steve Pickelman and John Bedeen. And those guys are old now, so some of you might not even know who they are. So that's my JC journey started. I grew up in a haunt in Wyandotte. I helped my parents with food basket deliveries at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and with the Easter egg hunt that we did in my hometown. Fast forward, I graduated from Wyandotte, decided I kind of needed to see the world a little bit, joined the Navy, spent some time there, lived in Japan for a bit, which was super cool. And then after I got out, I ended up in Beaufort, South Carolina, which is home to the Low Country JCs. And while I was working in South Carolina, I had started my kind of still public sector, kind of sector, private sector IT work. I was a contractor for a Marine Corps air station there. Spent some time as a local chapter president. 6 months after I joined, they decided I needed to be on the board. I was a little intimidated, to be honest with you guys. I didn't really want to be a JC, kind of ran away from it after some things that, my parents had big shoes in Michigan 10, 15 years ago at this point now. So I was scared. I didn't want to have to step in and people look to me like I was that person. So I went to a meeting. They asked me to join. I said, okay, we'll go ahead. And I just want to be a member for the first year, similar to some of us that have been in that position that they say, oh, wait, no, we need somebody for the board. So I spent my first year as a JC as a vice president, the only vice president in my chapter, which was an interesting experience, having come from Wyandotte, who had, I think, 80 members when I graduated high school and then kind of stepped away from the JCs. So coming to a chapter of 20 was a little shocking. And so I spent that year as VP, was a local chapter president in 2020. And I will leave that one at that. Went back to back because most of us did from 2020 to 2021 as local chapter presidents. What I was really proud of in that experience is how resilient we were as a chapter. It wasn't just me trying to rally the troops. I had a really strong chapter that said, hey, we're not quit just because this is happening. So we started moving towards virtual events, virtual fundraisers, and things like that. After doubling up in 2021, I joined South Carolina's state team as Joe Barry's membership VP. And Joe and I had a lot of fun driving around the state there. And as luck would have it, in 2022, I was moving again. I decided I needed a little bit of a change from where I was working and wanted to see the state of Texas. And then 3 weeks later, I met my now fiance. So I live in Stephenville, Texas, where I work at Tarleton State University for the Innovative Technology Solutions Department. I am a field tech there. I immediately joined past President Miguel's team here in Texas as his membership VP. And we spent a lot of time trying to repair relationships with chapters that had kind of fallen off for a bit. And we had some really good success. Foundation was laid for us to grow my year as state president in 2024. And I think probably the greatest thing that I've gotten out of this organization is the different perspectives that I've gotten, which have led me to my campaign theme of Unite, Uplift, Unleash. I've been a lot of places within JCI, and I think the thing that has always shown success is when people are together, they're given the tools to be successful, and then we let them go do the work. As Jess said earlier, which I love that she brought it up, this is a safe place to fail. And so we're going to give you every tool that you need, and nobody's going to judge you for what happens after. If it's a great success, great. If it didn't work, let's go ahead and try it again a different way. But that is where it led me to my theme, and I am super excited to be joining y'all tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick, and I won't personally be offended by the fact that you referred to John Badine, who is 2 years younger than me, as old. All right, we'll move on to our next national vice president candidate. We would like to invite to the Clerk Holmes. Kevin.
Hi, everybody. I'm actually super excited that I was invited to this. I also like that you guys reference where you're at on the map with your hand. So, I mean, I really enjoy that when I see you guys do that. So I also enjoy that there's a lot of Dr. Pepper fans in the audience, because that's what I've got on the side. But really what I want to say is that I'm so grateful to be able to see so many of you guys wanting to step up within your state. Just hearing your guys' passions and where you guys are at within your own growth within the organization is absolutely inspiring. And you guys should be really proud of the steps that you guys are wanting to take right now. Because I think that, that's just going to continue inspiring other people to want to step up. And that's what the organization's about, right? My state president's year, my theme has been Find Your Light. And what that means is that you are trying to find your passion, you're trying to ignite others, you're trying to find what drives you. And moving forward with that, it's one of those things that just kind of continuously inspires you to grow. It kind of gives you that catalyst of change that you need to be able to move forward. My JC journey has been really different from others, because growing up, you always heard from my family that they supported the community, but you didn't see any sort of, time commitment to be able to do something with the community. Yes, it was by financial means. So that's what I grew up understanding, was that's what it was. But then as I got older, you get to talk to other people and you see the types of things that they got to do and what it did for them. And it was completely inspiring to me to see how people changed and what they got out of it. Because when they talk to people within their own communities about the things that they did, people were thanking them, even though they may not have had a specific hand in that. They were still assisting with whatever it was that was impactful to that community, and it made a huge difference. And that's what we are as an organization. We're trying to find those things that we're identifying as issues, and we're trying to create that change. We're trying to continuously push that forward, push each other forward, our members forward, and the organization forward. And that's exactly what I believe all the candidates want to do. My theme for running for MVP is From Light Comes Legacy. I kind of talked to you about what finding your light meant, because this year that's my theme as state president is Find Your Light. Mine for MVP is From Light Comes Legacy. So we know what light means. The legacy portion of it is what we're leaving behind for those members. What are we doing to be able to give them that opportunity to be able to step up? Are we setting a good example for them? Are we being that mentor? Are we going to be that sounding board that they need just because, it's their first time chairing a project, or it's their first time talking to a major business in the area and they're looking for a sponsorship for something and they just don't know how to approach that? What are we doing to support that? And I really want to be one of those people that is going to be that support for our members, whether it's a quick text message or people show up to a meeting, everyone's talking about the same thing. I want to help be that voice for all of you. And it's something that you guys identify in all of your guys' campaign speeches. You guys want to be there for the members. So I think that it's really important that if you're voting people in, or even considering yourselves, just taking a look at that and seeing and asking yourself that question: what am I doing to help drive everybody forward? I would really, really enjoy being a 2026 national vice president, because I feel like I would be a perfect candidate for that. I am a very empathetic person, and any of you guys who have met me personally, you guys know my energy. I like to kind of ignite the room with my energy, and I like you guys to try to match that, because a lot of people say, we kind of take on the energy that's around us. So why not start with us, and why not be that positive energy that's going to spread to everybody else? And if it's not us that's got you, who does? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And we will move on to our next candidate for National Vice President, Joseph Barry. Joseph?
Thank you, JCI Michigan. And Sarah, thank you for hosting this. I know moderating is always a fun task. Yeah, so my name is Joseph Berry. I am a candidate for National Vice President for 2026 for JCI USA. Give you a little bit of background on myself and kind of my journey. I grew up in the JC organization. Similar to Nick, my parents were JCs, and actually my grandparents were JCs and JCettes. So I have kind of that third generation as JC. But growing up, all I knew was JCs as far as programming. When I needed volunteer hours for my beta club, I helped the JCs, at events in the city. And so there was always stuff I was doing around that organization. And I didn't realize the impact it had on my life growing up. So when I went to college, I actually joined a fraternity, and we right after we did initiation, we had elections, and I was elected as a community service vice president, and that was a perfect fit because I already had this background of community service and project planning that I didn't even realize I had just being around it. And so did that role or for a year, then worked as the chapter president for a year, and then had some other roles with the organization. And then actually went and worked on staff for my fraternity and was a consultant traveling around the country and meeting with chapters to help them be better, and just audit their operations and say, what are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? And how can we just improve them a little bit better? Came back home after all that travel and wanted to rest, and moved back to my hometown in Newberry, South Carolina, and was there for about a year. And then finally, one of my women that helped raise me, she was a JC chapter president, and she was like my best friend's mom. She called me one day and said, "Hey, there's a JC meeting tonight. You should come." I said, "Okay." And I actually called my sister and said, "Hey, I just got a call about a JC meeting." She said, "Yeah, I got the same call. Are you gonna go?" I said, "Yeah, I'll go if you go." And so we walked in together to the meeting. That meeting was at the end of the year, and they were trying to talk about what they were doing for next year's and with elections and some of the programs and stuff. And I just, not one to really be quiet. I put some input in, and they kind of turned their ears up and said, "That sounds right." And they said, "You sound like you know what you're talking about. You should be chapter president." And I was like, "I'm not even a member yet." And so they're like, "We can fix that really quickly." So for those of y'all that remember the JC member, I was put in as a new member and then immediately clicked as the chapter president. So I joined in 2017, took over as chapter president in 2018. And my philosophy was that I was going to I didn't care about the state organization, didn't care about the national organization. I cared about the Newberry JCs. So much so that we actually hosted a national convention in my state that year, and I refused to go. I was like, "This is dumb. I don't want to do this. It doesn't fit my priorities." Looking back, really dumb of me, but live and learn. We learn to fail, right? But I really cared about just growing our membership, growing our impact, and growing our community. And the opportunity the next year in 2019, I got an opportunity to join the state team. I weakened my hard edge up a little bit on the state programming, and they asked me what role I'd like, and I said the really only one I care about is membership. We'd grown our membership in our chapter pretty well, and they were like, yeah, that's the one we want you for. And so I stepped into that role. We grew the state that year as well. I then went back to 2020 and was a chapter president again. That was a COVID year, and we had a great time. Just being adaptable. And then 2021, I came back into the role of chapter or state membership director as well. So served twice in that role. Then went into the role of state president, and I served in that role twice as well, back to back. And that was really just to help build our pipeline of leadership up and help make sure that we weren't draining our local chapters to pull their person and bring them in to the state board, and then they leave their local chapter and their local chapter hurts. And so we saw that, and that was our way of kind of addressing it. And it's worked fairly well for the last couple of years. I've also served in a couple of different capacities on the JCI USA board. Currently, I serve as the membership development director for 2025, helping all our chapters with the resources and growth to help grow the organization. And prior to that, I also served with the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Board, trying to do some programming and some coordination for them, especially as they transition into a bylaw certified board. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I have had the opportunity to work with a lot of great chapters, both in South Carolina and in my local Newberry chapter, but also got the opportunity to work with a lot of great chapters throughout the nation, and run ideas with different chapter leaders. I've being in the state president's group chats is always one of my favorite things because we just get to talk and share ideas and wins and successes, but also struggles. And that kind of shaped a lot of what my theme is for my campaign. My campaign's theme is show up, show out, because I think when we do those two things, we're the best versions of ourselves. I've heard it said a couple of times tonight that just showing up and being present and being in the room where people are making a decision, not there to correct anything, but just being there for them is one of the first steps. You can't really do a lot if you're not there. And so attending meetings and going to contacting local leaders and investing in relationships is a great way, but also showing out and celebrating the successes, understanding the struggles, understanding that people have great wins and they deserve to be celebrated. And so there's a second component to that besides just showing up. It's that showing out part, and that's what it's a challenge to all JCs is to continue to show up and show out because that's our calling, I think, as leaders. Professionally, I work for a local organization. Come Out of Pride is a statewide nonprofit that deals with litter, so I get to talk trash all the time, and it's a great time. But I oversee our network of Keep America Beautiful affiliates that helps to grow their community impact. I think I hit my time right.
You are like, as a past Speak Up competitor, you could not have timed it better. You had 1 second left. You were perfect.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Joseph. You for sharing your story and your vision for your campaign. So we'll now move on to our last national vice president candidate to speak. Those of you who are on the call from JCI Michigan, you know her well as number 101. I would like to invite Kaylee Gratz to speak on behalf of her national vice president campaign. Kaylee.
So being that this is a Michigan call, many on here know my background, but we do have guests joining us, so I'll just give a little recap. My JC career started in 1996 when my parents joined this organization, and I grew up attending chapter events across the state as my parents are both very involved in the state org. I'm a member of both the Allegan JCs and JCI South Kent. For Kevin's sake, Allegan is right here and South Kent is like up here. And like Nick, I served as back-to-back chapter president of Allegan in 2020 and 2021. I am currently serving as the 101st president of JCI Michigan after having served in the roles of district director, membership VP, and programming VP. This year, my state presidency, my goal was to bring back a lot of those programs and resources that we had years ago and put them into motion to improve the current direction of JCI Michigan. I am also serving on the convention brainstorm committee for JCI USA this year with a few other state presidents. Outside of JCs, I graduated from Michigan State with a degree in animal science and I grew up farming. Professionally, I work in a lab um, for one of the world's largest biopharmaceutical research companies, where I also am a co-lead for the Global Emerging Professionals Employee Resource Group. We recently just rolled out a huge mentorship program, so that's pretty exciting. And then I also have experience with other nonprofit membership organizations, including FFA, Lions Club, and Chinchilla Breeder associations. I take a lot of what I learned from those other organizations and apply it to what we can do in the JCs. In my nearly 30 years of experience with this organization, I have seen us go from a large organization to one that struggles with membership and activation. I've heard the frustrations from members across the state and country about the struggles chapters currently face, and I've experienced those struggles myself. It's a different world being a JC today than it was when I was a kid in the JCs. But that doesn't mean that some of the methods that we had in the past can't be applied to today's organization to bring back some of the strength we once had. My theme for my MVP campaign is guided by legacy, focused on future. Because while I have experience and passion for what we have been, I also strive to see this organization push forward, continue creating that positive change, and improve the world around us for a better tomorrow. If elected, I don't know what my specific area of focus will be or what states I'll have assigned to me, but I do know I will bring that institutional knowledge and fiery passion to the role. I have all of my previous roles. I know I will stand up for members and what they want. I know that I will work to ensure that members have access to the tools they need so they don't have to waste the time reinventing the wheel. They can focus instead on actually impacting their communities and providing opportunities to all members. I know I will advocate for simplifying processes that are unnecessarily tedious for members. Awards was a thing. I don't know if I'll be assigned to awards, but Michigan has some feelings about awards. And I know I will take the time to travel to the states and to visit the states and chapters I'm assigned, as I already spend the majority of my life JCing and going across the state. I'll hit four, I think I've maxed out at 4 chapter visits in one day, and that was a whole triangle situation of driving. It was a long day, but I will definitely go wherever my states are and visit all those chapters. Ultimately, my goal for running for MVP is to not only continue my growth as a member, but to help ensure the success of our chapters so that we can see the continuation of JCI USA, so that children attending JC events with their parents today can be the leaders of this organizations themselves in the future, so that future generations can have the same opportunities that we all have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. And thank you to all of our National Vice President candidates. We will now open it up for questions from our audience. I would like to ask that our National Vice Presidents please try and keep their answers to roughly 1 minute so we can get through as many questions from our members as possible, as this is a unique opportunity for our general members to be able to ask questions of our national candidates. So, if you are a member, if any members have any questions, please hit the raise hand button on your Zoom, and I will call on you in the order I see you. While we're waiting for them to raise their hands, I will ask each of you a fun question, which is if you could go to any location that you have not already visited, what would you choose? We will start with Joe, Joseph, Kevin, Katie, Abigail, Kaylee, Nick. Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I have a goal of visiting all 50 states before I turn 50. I'm about 32 in right now. But the one I'm really excited to, and I think I'm going to hold off, might be my last one, is Alaska, just because I think that would be a fun experience.
Kevin.
I think for me, my whole family's always talked about Eugene, Oregon, and how beautiful it is over there and how much rain it always gets. And I'm a sucker for rain. So I would love to go over there for once to actually see it.
All right. Katie.
Hey, so outside of the JCs, I'm often hiking, and I would love to see Yellowstone National Park. It's my next national park on my list.
All right. Abigail.
It's kind of silly, but Canada. I'm really close to Canada and I've never been there, and so we'll work on that.
All right. Kaylee.
Poland. So my family is Polish. My great grandparents both immigrated here, and that is number one. I've been trying to teach myself Polish for a number of years. I can get by with decent small phrases, but that's number one.
Awesome. And Nick.
You guys may say this is a little bit of a homer play, but growing up in Wyandotte, I never made it to Tequamanon Falls, and I have only ever seen pictures and would love to go.
You gotta go to the River Falls. Anyone who doesn't know what Tequamanon Falls is, Google it afterwards. It's really, really cool looking waterfalls here in Michigan. All right, so we have our first question. Brandon, I will call on you to ask your question, and we will start in the reverse order of how I just asked the location question. So we'll go Nick, Kaylee, Abigail, Katie, Kevin, Joe. Brandon, you got the mic.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for being here today. I think this is a pretty large turnout from what I've seen the last year or so of these. So thanks for making the time to touch base with us as Michigan. I think the Detroit Tigers jerseys may be more of a home play than Tequananum Falls, but that's aside the point. So I'm curious. I know MVPs cover different categories, if you will, all the way from sponsorship and partnerships to communications. I'm kind of curious to hear from you guys, maybe where your strengths lie, what ones you would be hoping to get, and kind of what you would be able to bring to those aspects. Of course, knowing that it doesn't always pan out that way, but.
Well, thanks, Brandon. It's funny because I've had this conversation with a few people. Um, it would be a hard choice. For me, a lot of it has come down to what programs are under those MVPs. I've had conversations about wanting to potentially have member relations because that is where the DEI committee will fall for JCI USA. And I spent 2 years on the diversity council before it was written into the bylaws. And so doing a lot of work with that, I think would be a little bit full circle and really important to me. Having seen so much of the country and lived in so much of the country, but also from where I grew up, being 20 minutes outside of Detroit, 10 if you're speeding. I was granted the opportunity through my public schooling to go to school with kids with different backgrounds. A small portion of our school were actually kids from Southwest Detroit, which looks a lot different than Wyandotte, for those of you that have been downriver or not. So that one has really been super important to me. There's also, I've had ideas about Toya and what that could look like. I know MVP Morgan is working on her Mile program for mentorship, which I have assisted her with as a member of the training task force this year. So I don't know that I could give you a straight answer of what I would wish to have. I just hope to be able to make an impact wherever I get assigned.
Thank you, Kaylee.
So kind of similar to Nick, I feel like I have strengths in a lot of different areas that are split up across multiple of the areas of focus. Membership is one. The year that I was membership vice president for the state, I figured out the exact minute that automatic dues are taken out in Glue Up. And Michigan's Glue Up, for those who aren't aware, we have monthly members and it's a nightmare. And it was it's a whole other thing to be the Michigan Glue Up person. So I learned a lot in that year. And also that was the first year in many years that Michigan saw growth. And it was an incredibly rewarding process to be a part of. So I think I would have strength in that. This year, one of my big initiatives is bringing back Outstanding Young Michigander. So I've pulled a lot from Toya to kind of bring that back, and I've been a nominator for Toya. So I've seen like that kind of aspect of things. So I feel like would have some experience and some perspective going in for the role of overseeing Toya. I also have been part of the submission process for JCI Michigan Awards for the past 3 years, 4 years now. And I've judged awards, and so I feel like I'd have a good perspective going in for awards, also having been program vice president last year. And so there's a bunch of different areas. They all kind of fall in different like assignment areas, but I feel like I would be uh adept for. Another one would be the mentorship program, having just released a huge mentorship program at work. And then the alumni relations. I live with a senator. He's my dad, and that's something that I've been really passionate about this year was improving Michigan's relationship with our Senate as well. So
Thank you, Kaylee. Abigail?
Hello. Thank you for the question. As I think about this question, I've had the chance to get to know a couple different areas on the national board from being on different committees. Um, and I really can't, I guess, pinpoint one that I would really like. So far, just because not knowing so much about all that are out there. I know that communications there, bring with the brand ambassadors, I am improving my skills in that area. Mental health, it's kind of what I do for a living. It's kind of my niche. So that is definitely one I would be important of, but that's only one part of a big assignment that is given there. Toya is definitely very interesting having being on the committee and doing that. So it's a pretty cool undertaking and helping with the rebuild, I think will be very important. Do I think I'm the person for the job? I'll be that person if somebody else decides. So I just can't really pinpoint something down that I would hope that I get because I don't quite know everything that's out there. But I'm excited to learn going forward with that.
Thank you, Abigail. Katie?
Thank you, Brandon, for this question. Thinking back to my opening, I did not share what I do professionally, and I actually am a marketing manager at the Convention Center in St. Charles. Previous to that, I worked at Ronald McDonald House Charities of St. Louis for 6 years, ending as the marketing communications manager. So, with over a decade of experience in immersive marketing, project management, and even some fundraising. I mean, it was so fun. We got to fundraise to help kids and parents. I think all of those skills really, have set me up for success for the marketing or communications area. I would love also for the opportunity to support sponsorship. And really building those connections between our organization and other corporations. With that being said, I'm open to any area as assigned and know that my training through JCI is really going to set me up for success in it. So thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
So one of the things that I'm super passionate about is membership relations, and the other one, a little disgusting. So I hope you guys are ready for this. It is corporate sponsorships and programming. I think corporate sponsorships are really, really, really important, especially with the organization and just spreading the word about what we're about and just making sure that they're aware of what we do. And it could actually affect a lot of their employees, and we could actually get a lot of them on board. And I think that it's really important to actually establish those connections moving forward and just making a bigger presence. So if I had the ability to choose, that's what it would be. But just like everybody else, I'm pretty adaptable and I will do whatever I need to.
Thank you, Kevin. And Joseph?
Yeah, so for anybody that's a football fan, I like to consider myself like a flex player. I can fit in any kind of role. But the one I think I probably would, so the one I think has the most opportunity is partnerships. I think we have a strong partnership with United Beat Malaria, but that's about as far as they go right now. I think there's an opportunity to partner with other national organizations on a national scale, and help, deliver some of the products and the trainings that their people need. I think that we are a perfect organization to kind of fill that need gap that so many other organizations are coming from. One of my first speak up opportunities I ever did, I stood up and said, we need to become a pipeline from all the students in college that are already doing so much. We don't necessarily need to go recruit college students. We need to be where they land from when they come out of school and do that. So finding some national organizations like that, finding other organizations like even at the high school level, I think those are just great opportunities for us to just kind of be in that room and feed from them.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. We will move on to our next question. I will once again kindly remind our candidates to try and keep it to 60 seconds so we can get a couple more questions in. Celeste, you will be the next question, and Karina, you are on deck. And we will start with Joseph and work in reverse order this.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Hello, candidates. So happy to see you on the JCI Michigan call. I would love to ask you the question of if you could explain your values of your campaign and what you plan to do in 3 words. What would those 3 words be?
Ooh. Uh, Show up out. But I think that, like I mentioned earlier, that I think, really trying to encourage all our members to continue to show up but also show out and have that, um, you know, to celebrate those wins and create this fun organization that our members are proud to be a part of.
Kevin?
I absolutely adore that you do everything in three, Celeste. So thank you so much. But I think from Lightcom's legacy, I think the three most important points for this is one going to be communication, the other one's going to be accessibility, and the other one's going to be respect. Because I feel like all three of those are absolutely important foundational things that we need that's going to guide us through anything. And especially when you're going on to the national level, having that communication and being transparent is going to be absolutely it's going to be a huge deal.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll move on to Kate.
Hi, Celeste. Thank you for the question. I am such a nerd about values, and I actually have my personal values listed on my LinkedIn. And that's really where the discussion for my heart, hustle, and human connection came from for the campaign. So, just a little bit about me. My personal values are community, respect, responsibility, adventure, and compassion. And thinking about how I can tie that into a JC world to show who I am, that's where I landed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Abigail? Abigail, you're next.
All right, mine's care, connect, and inspire. I think we have to care for each other to be able to show empathy and move through struggles that come up and have authentic, actual good experiences. Connect, being able to get out, connect with other JC's members, be able to share experiences, and then inspire. Uh, the true meaning of inspire is something you can't control. I can't control whether I inspire someone. I can only do what I can do and be a good person, and that other person will choose if that's what they lead after. And so inspiring a legacy is important to me, and so that's one of my 3 words that I would put out there.
Thank you, Abigail. Kaylee?
I think my 3 are knowledge, adaptability, and authenticity. So with knowledge comes power, and want to make sure that the knowledge of the opportunities and resources are in the hands of every member. Adaptability, it's not a one size fits all when it comes to JCs. We have chapters that have 75 members and we have chapters that have 10 members. We have chapters in New York City and then chapters in tiny farm towns like Allegan. So there's a big difference to what works and what doesn't work. And so adapting the processes to fit individual chapters and individual members is going to be huge. And then authenticity, just being authentic with each other, because why why be any other way?
Thank you, Kaylee. And we'll finish up with Nick.
Togetherness, development, action. Thanks, Celeste.
All right. And now we will move on to our next question from Karina. We will start with Nick and work backwards to Joseph this time.
All right. I've often heard of JCI or the JCs referred to as a town's best kept secret. And as we all know, this organization and service organizations as a whole have seen membership declines. What is one thing you'd like to see JCI doing to help JCI USA doing to help strengthen our name across the country?
All right. We will start with Nick.
I think the biggest thing that we can do is truly find out and evaluate how we're using advertisement dollars, especially in the digital world that we're in. How much farther would that go if we were maybe reaching out to social media influencers or running an ad on a large YouTuber's video that they upload, right? Or finding digital creators that kind of embody the JC mission, but they don't actually know what we are either. So I think leveraging influencers, and I don't know that I love that wording of it, but leveraging the digital space to spread the word.
All right. We'll move on to Kaylee.
Yeah, advertising and visibility to the greater public. I heard a Lions Club commercial, like just like, hey, join the Lions Club on the radio one day. I was like, why don't we have one of those? And then also the Lions Club at Rotary and all of these different service organizations had giant floats in the Rose Parade. I'm not saying that because that's a lot of money and time and everything. It was, and also it launched into a huge, Sarah Austin is laughing right now because it launched into a huge argument, but we need more visibility like that. And so, yeah, just figuring out how we can get in front of greater masses of people.
Thank you, Kaylee. We'll move on to Abigail.
So what I've seen in my home chapter is we were always kind of like the best. We were the small but mighty was how we were referred to, and at times we were a smaller chapter, at times we were a bigger chapter. And so what I have seen is the impact that people see us out there. And so like if we're at those events, doing those raffle tickets, helping that organization, like getting that to know that. So I think the way that we do that on the JCI USA level is those partnerships and that big initiative that says the JCs are behind this, and this is kind of what we see going forward, whether that be a seatbelt initiative, whether that be something with organ donations, or whether that be something just on a level that says this is something we believe in and we're making our national stage in this thing. Of course, that would be needed through like partnerships with those organizations that need that backing. But we're a young leadership organization. And so if we can show the leadership that we have had in the past to put us back on that big stage, I think that that would be helpful if we could find an initiative to put ourselves behind.
Thank you, Abigail. We'll move on to Katie.
I love this question. As a grassroots organization, I have to say I would want to share the ability of storytelling with every member. Therefore, the more we can tell our own stories and connect with other people to say how the JCs have really impacted my life is the way that we can get other people involved. I've had folks talk to me about just being friends on Facebook and reaching out and saying, tell me more about this JC thing. Like, I just watched your journey. So it's the fact of not only talking about storytelling, but having a very intentional way of how we talk about it. If you're chairing a festival, are we talking about how tired we are after working 1,700 hours, or are we showcasing the impact to the community? Really making sure that we have that perception and starting with ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. We will move on to Kevin.
I also love this question because I actually recently had a very unique opportunity to be able to go to an area that was not covered in our state by chapters, and just making that physical presence at the festival that we went to. It was amazing the amount of past JCs, senators, people from different states that knew about the JCs, just the amount of people actually knew about our organization. We might be a secret, but we are probably only a secret because we're being quiet about it. So let's get ourselves out there into those areas that we're not in and look outside of that box that we've been in, and actually make that presence so then we can create that change there too. And then also get those people on board as well, which will also help with our membership.
Thank you, Kevin. And now we'll move on to Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, echoing a lot of what other candidates have said is just helping get the word out a little bit more. An example that I think could be mimicked over into the JC organization is one of the organizations I work with. They've partnered with the America 250 Commission. So for those who don't know, America's having a 250th birthday of the signing declaration on July 4th next year. And so they're challenging their members and chapters to do pick up 250 pieces of litter and do 200 like plant red, white, and blue flowers and stuff like that. I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of mimic that and maybe highlight 250 young leaders or 250 impactful projects throughout our history. And that way we can really show that, hey, the young people have been integral into the development of our nation, especially as we lead up to 250. And I think it's a great opportunity to kind of just not tack ourselves onto that. I think would be a great opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Joseph. And thank you to all of our national vice president candidates. It has been a wonderful opportunity for our members who many times are not able to attend the national events to get to meet each of you and hear a little bit about your campaigns. I encourage all members, whether you're a JCI Michigan member or a member from another state's organization, to please check out the Facebook pages for all of our candidates for national vice president. All six of them I have Facebook pages. You can find them very easily by searching 2026 JCI USA National Vice President. Trust me, I checked it out before today's show. So, thank you again for all of you for attending. We are going to move on to our next category, but it's great to have all six candidates on the call. So, thank you. We will now move on to our Deputy National President candidate. The candidate will have 10 minutes to speak, and then we will move on to some question and answer for him as well. I'm going to give a minute for our technology team to unpin and repin, but we're going to have Eric join us in just a moment as soon as we get things adjusted. When our communications team also happens to be candidates for JCI Michigan offices, it gets a little bit which hat are they wearing at which moment? So, all right, there's Eric. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Eric to speak about his campaign for Deputy National President. Eric, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thanks so much for JCI Michigan for hosting this. Thank you to all the attendees. I know I see a lot of familiar faces in Michigan, but I also see some faces from all around the country as well. It's so great to see everyone come in on a Sunday night, getting to know all the different candidates. Let me introduce myself. My name is Eric Hyatt, and I am from the Champaign-Urbana JCs in Central Illinois. I've been a member since 2015, and along the way, I've served in a lot of different roles from the local, state, national, and international level. I still remember walking into my first membership event back in 2015, and all the different positions have really allowed me to grow and gain experience. 2 years after joining, I chartered the Champaign-Urbana JCs, and later after that, serving on the state level, working as state president, working with nearly 30 chapters when I was state president, from rural areas to suburban, chapters that were 15 members, chapters that were 95, and working despite whatever the size of the chapter or where they were at, working to help support them and help them reach their goals. And then I served on the national level, serving as national vice president and then serving as membership development director. This year, I'm really excited to serve on the international level on the JCI Strategic Planning Implementation Committee. This is a great committee where I'm really learning more about JCI and their strategic plan and how they're implementing it. And it's a great way to get to know members from all around the world. I also had the opportunity this year to participate in the American Leadership Academy right before Conference of Americas, where I was able to gain experience, learn from members from all around JCI Americas, and build connections and leadership skills in the process. This weekend, I just got back from a project in JCI, Wisconsin. And while on the ride back this afternoon, I was thinking about that sense of passion, that sense of connection that we all feel when we go to a JC project. It doesn't matter if it's our local chapter or our state, or maybe it's a chapter in a different state. That spirit, that connection really binds us together, helping support our communities and helping to support our members in the process. And those type of projects, I'm sure you might feel the same way at a time. It kind of fills your JC cup up. It really shows you why what we're doing and how we can really continue to grow in this organization. With that spirit is why I'm running for Deputy National President. My theme this year is to fuel the future. And with that, there's three central pillars of my campaign. One is to enhance the member experience. Let's create unforgettable moments for every member. Our member experience is really what binds us together, keeps us in this organization. I mean, think back about some of the memorable moments that you've had in this organization. Maybe it was attending convention for the first time. Maybe it was connecting with a new member from a different state or traveling for the first time. These experiences are so important. Let's build on those experiences together to create amazing member experience. The DMP works closely with our program managers, and I want to make sure that our national programs are reaching our members. And if they're not, let's figure out why. And maybe we need to get more member feedback to figure out what they're looking for, what can help them and serve them. Let's also look at our national conventions as well and our national experiences. At the international level, we offer an on-to program for our international events that divide the payments into small payments. The international on-to program is really an awesome opportunity, and let's maybe see if we can do that for national programs as well to help with affordability. My second pillar is implementing the JCI USA strategic plan. Let's turn those bold visions into real world wins. As DMP, I would be serving on the JCI Strategic Planning Committee. And next year will be the second year of the implementation phase. And this is really an important year where we can roll up our sleeves and work together to make sure that the hard work that we took to develop that strategic plan is actually reaching our members and chapters. I'll use my experience this year on the JCI Strategic Plan Implementation Committee to help along the way as well. And let's make sure all of our members know about it, providing regular feedback, regular status updates. And if things aren't working as planned, let's work together to pivot to make sure that we are working together to help implement it. We have a lot more years of the strategic plan to go, so let's turn the second year into a really strong implementation phase. The third theme or pillar of my campaign is empowering leadership throughout the organization, igniting leadership at every level. The DMP serves as a mentor, serves as someone that helps connect people together. Maybe you have an idea for a project but don't know where to go. The DMP can help serve to connect and unite people together. And also getting ideas from bottom up. I was just at a project a couple weeks ago, and there were two newer members that just joined. And it was so exciting to hear their passion and their feeling of excitement for the organization. They had a lot of strong ideas, and it was just really inspiring to hear their story and some of the work that they're planning to do for their chapter. Now, I don't want to take them from their chapter, but I think there's opportunities to look at how we can serve and having them serve on committee roles, making sure that we're opening up the process, looking at our different program managers as well to make sure that we're getting ideas at all levels of the organization and help mentor people in the process to build their leadership skills as well. To fuel the future also is about yourself as well and connecting and building on that skill set. I was just talking to a member this week from Illinois, and he was talking about how this organization has really built his confidence. There was projects that he was doing at work that the JCs gave him the confidence that he could do that. This organization really turns us up to be able to reach our full potential. And I'm really excited about the future of our organization. I look forward to connecting with you and learning your story and hearing from you. Anyone that wants to reach out, whether you're a local member, state leader, I want to hear your story, get your ideas, and connect with you. Because together, I know that we can fuel the future of our organization. Thank you.
And thank you, Eric. We'll now open up for questions from our audience. Once again, please feel free to click the raise hand feature, and I will call on you as the questions come up. And Eric, if you can keep your answers to around 2 to 3 minutes, so that we can get through as many of our members' questions as possible. I don't see any hands up yet, so I'm going to ask you the same question I asked those national vice president candidates, which is if you could go visit any location that you have not already been to, where would you go?
Oh, that's that's a hard one. Let's see. I think I really want one place I really want to go to is Japan. And seeing some of the members from around the world, the passion that they have for this organization in Japan is really really intense, and it's really great to see. And that's one place I'm really hoping to visit. Going forward. And this organization has really opened up the door to really travel and to kind of meet members from around the country, around the world. I don't think when I joined back in 2015, I don't think I would have imagined the experiences I've been able to have traveling to World Congress, Conference of Americas. It's that sense of community that you really feel. Some of the people that I met at the American Leadership Academy, I still talk to, right? Still talk to on a regular basis. And some of them came to New York during Human Unities Day, and seeing them and like being able to connect with them again was really special. So I think, but to answer your question, Japan would probably want to be really interested in going to.
Great. All right. Well, I don't see anybody raising their hand yet, so you get a second question from me, which is that when we created the Deputy National President role, what was it, 6 years ago now? The thought process was that that was the way to be able to make it so that when we have people running for the national president office, that they've kind of seen behind the curtain. And I know you have a diverse background. Is there any area that you would be focusing on kind of broadening your knowledge and your scope in the year as DNP in preparation for a role as national president theoretically the following year?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing, and you're right, the DMP position is one that, you're thinking strategically about the future and really kind of, working sometimes behind the scenes, helping the national president work on their national plan of action. Something that I really want to learn more about and just, reviewing the strategic plan, talk about some of the there's a disconnect, I think, in one of the weaknesses that we have in the strategic plan that is listed is sometimes our projects don't necessarily have follow through. And so that's one thing that's in the strategic plan. And like I read that, I'm like, that's kind of right. A lot of our projects one year we'll do something and the next year we'll try something different. And so I think one thing I really want to tackle and see is how we can continue some of the programs that are working well and making sure that we're following through on that. And because if we were creating the wheel every single year, that isn't necessarily serving our members because they don't not know what to expect. And so I think identifying that in a strategic plan and trying to meet with our members, hearing what they're learning about some of the national programs as they roll out, and then seeing what we can do in that implementation phase of the national program, or if we're reviewing the national program, seeing what we can do to make it better so that way people are seeing that we're following through on our programs and initiatives and not just, turning the page every year.
Thank you very much. And clearly, people don't want me to continue asking questions because now we've got 3 people in the queue. So,
Great.
MVP Chris, you are next. Celeste, you are on deck. And President Kaylee, you are on double deck. MVP Chris, go ahead.
Good evening, Eric.
Good evening.
So one of the questions I had, JCI USA is an organization that's deeply rooted in tradition, but we all know the way the current slate of everything is. The world's rapidly changing. As a DNP, how would you lead the organization to embracing that change, whether it's culture, structure, programming, while we maintain, I would say, while maintaining the core identity and values that define us?
Thanks for the question. I think one way we do that first is we need to first bring people together, right? Like let's bring people together and learn about some of the things, the concerns that they have, with, maybe they don't want to change. Let's do a specific example. Maybe they don't want to change a national program because it's something that's, something that's been going on for about 30 years. But I think if we bring people together and talk about some of the issues, and so it's not just, the national organization dictating down, here's what we're doing, but rather it's coming from the bottom up, and we're talking to members on the ground who, the states and chapters who deal with or who work with our members on a daily basis and get their feedback in the process. I think that's really important. We have a very strong legacy in this organization, and that legacy is very important. But also, we need to be bold and visionary at the same time. So we need to make sure that we're balancing those approaches and making sure that we're not afraid to try something new. In the strategic plan, it lists several new things that, maybe we should give it a try and give us that framework to what to do and how to be that visionary force for the future as well. And I know there will always be pushback sometimes, but I think if you first involve the members in the process, that's so important because that way we're getting everyone's feedback. And then also, if we look at how to be visionary and look at how what changes we can do to make things better or to enhance the member experience, we can look also at some of what's being done in around the world with JCI chapters. When I was at the European conference about a month or two ago, they had a session on how to start new chapters, and some of their toolkits that they provide their chapters and new potential chapters is really insightful, and like there's new approaches that we can even try. So being open to that change and building a network around the world where we can take what's working in one country and see if we can adapt it somewhere else. And then we have that research on that, like this worked in this country, let's give that a try. I think that can bring people on board as well. So I hope I answered your question on that.
You did. Thank you.
All right, Eric. And your next question will be coming from Celeste. Celeste Ross.
Hi there, Eric. Thank you so much for what you've contributed so far. So my question is a little bit coming from the accessibility to some of the members on the national board. So from what I understand, what I've been shared with from members is really that sometimes the request process for official visits, it's a little bit tedious. There's a couple hoops to jump through. So what would you do to make that a little bit more accessible and adaptable so you can have a stronger presence and less of a barrier when it comes to requesting and making those official visits happen?
No, thanks for the question. I think our chapter visits and our state visits are so important. And I think they really should be prioritized. And, even when I was national vice president 2 years ago, sometimes states are, and rightfully so at times, it's a challenge sometimes to request that national officer in. There's so many different requirements and whatnot. And really, I think we need to build a strong foundation of the importance of what it means to bring a chapter or a national officer to that state or local community. In some communities, it's really easy to like hit some of the requirements that traditionally has been set for how to have a national officer. That local office, that government official visit, that partnership visit, that media visit. But in some communities, that's a lot harder to do. But there could be a lot of impact for that member or that national officer to really engage at the local level or to visit that state. There's some chapters that probably have never had a national office. In order to engage, in order to listen to our members, we need to be on the ground, volunteering at the projects, pouring beer at the beer stand, listening to our members. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to really make sure that happens. So I think what we can actually do to make sure it happens, I think it involves working to redefine the request process where we're, listening to some of the feedback that our state presidents and also our local presidents are having on requesting an officer, making sure we try to address that and maybe change some of those requirements. So maybe instead of the media visit, maybe they're meeting with a potential member because that, if that chapter can gain 5 new members, that could be huge for that chapter, especially if it's like a chapter that's 10 or 15 members. So redefining the request process is another. And it's also another thing is just trying to just find ways to just show up, right? Like, one of the things that I've really tried to do over the last couple of years is visit chapters and states all around the country, and you gain so much from that. And sometimes, you just sign up for a shift. I remember when I was state president, there was one chapter in Illinois that really didn't have much involvement with the state, but I showed up. I didn't come announced as the state president, and I just was there talking to the members, and later they realized I was the state president. But that was like a good connection to build. So I think we shouldn't be afraid of necessarily trying to reach out to those chapters that haven't had any presence with a national organization, but being there as their ally, being there to support them, and showing up at that project with our sleeves rolled up, ready to get to work. So definitely those are some of the things I would do, but it starts with redefining our request process and making sure we get the state president's feedback and local leaders to make sure that we can make that happen to get more national leaders in the field, in our chapters, and in our communities.
Thank you, Eric. All right, we will move on to our last question for Deputy National President candidate Eric, and that question will come from our current JCI Michigan State President, Kaylee Gratz. Kaylee?
So I'll go ahead and ask you the same question that I had for Jessica. What are the greatest opportunities that you think JCI could seize, that we currently are not seizing?
So I think there's a lot of different ways that we can really look at, I think one is, looking at our opportunities to engage with other organizations. I think there's opportunities there. I think a lot of times I think a lot of times a lot of our MVPs are so focused on working to maintain all the different things that we're doing that it's hard necessarily sometimes to focus on some of those visionary things, right? So like, I think one of the MVPs mentions, hey, let's, find some new partnerships, right? But we already are trying to build our existing partnerships and making sure our Toya is great. And so that's a lot of responsibility in that one MVP. So I think we can turn to, looking at our strategic plan, going back to that, and it lays out some of those things, right? So partnerships is one, trying to find opportunities to there. I think there's also opportunities to engage more of our members to attend national events. Maybe it's not a national event at a convention that looks like a convention. Maybe it's something like a social where we bring all the members together. Maybe it's something else where like these mini experiences that we're offering our members, like in New York, we just offered the Human Duties Day. And that brought members from around the world actually together, and some from the United States. United to Beat Malaria is another one where we bring people from around the country to Washington, D.C. So I think there's opportunities as well with our member experiences in terms of looking at what we can do to bring people together that maybe don't necessarily want to go to a convention, but then if they do want to go to a convention, let's make sure that experience is great. And that fits under my first pillar of the member experience.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so very much, Eric, for sharing your vision and your plans and your campaign. And thank you to our members who have asked questions. Once again, if you have a question that you want to ask Eric after today's call, now that we're done with the question and answer section, he also has a Facebook presence for his campaign. I know you can reach out to him directly through there. He's willing to help answer any questions you might have about his story, his campaign, his vision for the organization. So thank you again, candidate Eric.
Great to be here. Thank you.
But without any further ado, it is now time for us to bring to the virtual stage our candidate for the 106th National President of JCI USA. He is currently serving as our JCI USA Deputy National President. Please welcome to the stage Josh Hovland.
Right. Am I unmuted for everyone?
You are unmuted.
Great. Thank you so much. So first and foremost, thank you everyone for being here tonight. Thank you to JCI Michigan for hosting this important forum. I think this is one of the most important parts of our election process, in even non-JCI races, is getting the chance and opportunity to speak directly to the people who will be voting and constituents. So thank you for being here. I think it's one of the most important points is that you're selecting the leaders for the next year, right? Like not just myself, not just deputy national president, the NVPs, your state leadership. It's important to keep in mind that those are the leaders that are going to make the changes that you want to see. They're your representatives of this organization and kind of where we're going in the future and ensuring that this organization lasts for another 106 years, at least at the USA level. As Sarah did say in my introduction, I am the current deputy national president. So I've been with the organization now since 2019. I did t dip my toes in the water with the organization prior to that, but my formal and continued membership of the organization has been since 2019. For those of you that don't know me personally, I am from Delaware, so on the East Coast, as Sarah was mentioning, it is a little late here, but it's fine because I'm glad to be here speaking with everyone. So I started at JCI Wilmington. I joined that organization quickly. They saw something in me, apparently, and I became treasurer shortly after joining and helped to negotiate how we will spend money with the Senate organization in Delaware over some funds that were obtained through selling a chapter. So I'm no stranger to conflict resolution and figuring out common solutions that work for everyone. So shortly after that, I became the chapter president throughout COVID, and then served as a membership director for the state of Delaware during that term as well. Kind of played dual roles given it was COVID and could kind of wear multiple hats at the same time. And then after that, in 2022, I had the opportunity to be the president of the state of Delaware for JCI Delaware. So it was during that where I really got my exposure to the national organization. Before then, I hadn't really been involved too much. As some others earlier on the call mentioned, they were kind of aloof. You were worried about your chapter, the things you were working on, influencing, as well as your community, making an impact there. That's kind of where I was prior to being a state president. But being a state president in 2022 really gave me that opportunity, opened my eyes to what JCI USA is, not just what JCI Delaware is or JCI Wilmington was. Um, you know, so that was a really great opportunity. I saw all of the positive things that I saw during that time. I saw things that we could be doing better, as I'm sure many of you have seen with the organization as well, and that kind of lit a fire in me, quite frankly, to do more. So in 2023, I got to be a program manager over CLC. That year was really cool. I We got to bring it into a Google form since it no longer had a home, since JC member was no longer around, and we at least digitized it, made it so that you could fill that out and come back to it and save your progress over time. So that was something that was really important to me, and we kind of listened, heard, surveyed members, met with a ton of members about that. And then after that, I ran for MVP for 2024, and I got to serve a bunch of wonderful states. And then I also oversaw the area of partnerships, as well as programs like United to Beat Malaria, looking at our financial partners that we have at the time and reviewing that, as well as a number of other things. Sometimes one of the most important things I've learned throughout my time with JCI USA, it's not about what we say yes to, it's what we say no to. And you can bet that throughout my year as the partnerships MVP, we had a ton of organizations reaching out, and their thoughts, philosophies didn't match the organization. And sometimes it's tough to say no when you have other organizations who want to work with you, but we got to keep it on the right path of where we're headed and making sure that our partners are also headed in that same direction. And it's an equal partnership, that they are helping us get there, and it's not a one-sided partnership. So that's kind of where I was. And then I ran for deputy national president last year, and I won that election. And this year I've had a really fantastic time helping to guide some of the things happening at a national level, really checking in and helping to be the MVP of the MVPs, so to speak, really helping to guide, coach, mentor those MVPs when they have a problem that comes up or in one of their programs or with one of their states, helping provide them with guidance and advice and direction. And really, honestly, a lot of times it's in leadership, it's about asking people questions, they know the answer, and the answer's within them as leaders, especially in this organization. You just have to help bring that out sometimes. So that's one of the things I really enjoy, and I've had the great opportunity to do this year. And then additionally, helping to ensure that all of our goals and our tracking and our metrics are on par to make sure that now that we're in year 2 of our strategic plan, staying committed to that strategic plan and we're delivering on what we said we're going to. Because at the end of the day, our commitment to our strategic plan was based on the members' feedback. There's direct, numerous membership feedback inside of that. So it's important that we commit to that as an organization. This is a direct statements from the organization's members at the very lowest level of the organization of what they want to see, and we need to deliver on that. And I'm making sure this year that we do that. So before I dip into a little bit more about why I'm running personally, I just wanted to touch on, I joined the JCs because I was interested in professional development. I was in my mid to early 20s. There was a stagnant job market, ways to get ahead and be sustainable economically, financially, all that. So that's why I joined the JCs. But I got really so much more that I bargained for. But there's been so many instances within the JCs, from leading programs, managing budgets, having connections in the community, that has helped give back to my both personal goals and career, as well as my professional career. So that being said, I work at Comcast, or Xfinity. Those of you may know that. It's a cable provider. I work in the product management team for our retail tools. So anything you see or go into or work with associates in our Xfinity retail locations, me or my team had an impact on what those look like to help. So that's kind of what I do in the professional world. Lots of project management, lots of working with technology and things like that. So I don't know how to code, but I know enough to be dangerous. So that's kind of my professional background as well. On to kind of why I'm running. I have a commitment to the JCI USA for the long term. I want to see this organization exist. When I first started my JC career, I'd gotten a lot personally from it, and I wanted to see that for other people. Um, since then, as I'm sure many of you throughout your JC career, things change and evolve, right? Since then, I've become a dad within the past little over a year, and this is an organization I want to see exist for my son. I want to see this organization exist for my niece. This is something we need to make sure keeps going. And we are at a critical point in our organization's history right now. I know others have talked about it today, about membership numbers maybe dwindling. I think we're at a critical point where what we need to do is we need to stick to our strategic plan. We need to deliver on those things. We need to go above and beyond that, and we need to make sure that we're delivering value to chapters, local members, state organizations, and provide some of those resources that, quite frankly, they're doing today on their own, but they shouldn't have to. The national organization should be providing those resources so they can spend their time in the communities, working with the local chapters at the state level to make sure they have everything that's state specific to have success. So I think the other big thing that I'm about is sustainable systems and processes. So I know this year I don't know if everyone is aware, we'll be hiring a new executive director for JCI USA shortly. We have hired a program director recently, and we'll be opening another job position for a membership coordinator. We need to have systems in place that those people can follow to make sure that they are going to have the tools they need to give to all of the states and the local organizations as well. There's a reason why we invested in these 3 roles, and the board passed that financial commitment and investment in the organization, and we need to see through we do it. That's one of the top priorities of what we need to do in this next year if I'm elected as national president. Most importantly, though, is that we can't do it alone. And that's really tying to my Together We Build. So there's a whole portion of what will happen between staff that we're hiring, but there's a whole nother sector of what's going to happen between the executive committee and all of the state presidents next year. We need to build this together. We need to hear more feedback. Of course, we're going to be committed to the strategic plan, but we need to figure out what are those things above and beyond the strategic plan. The strategic plan, in my opinion, is the baseline of what we're going to hit. We told you we're going to commit to this. This is what we're delivering, but what else are we delivering in addition to that, especially given that we're bringing on these 2 new staff members, just if we're backfilling the executive director, that's an additional add. So we have 2 more headcount at JCI USA staff what are we doing above and beyond the strategic plan? Because those individuals should be able to help us get at a baseline to what we committed to. And at the core of it, my JCI career has always been about people. That's what the organization does, right? We develop young leaders and we give them opportunities to create positive change. This is about the people, and we need to invest in the people to make sure that there's something worth staying in this organization for, and for this organization to continue, like I said, for the next 106 years. So I think a lot of what I have will probably come out in some of the questions about that. Stay tuned. I am narrowing in on the final stages of my strategic plan. So look for that on social media as well as my website, josh-hoveland.com, to see the final publishing of that plan. And feel free to reach out to me if you don't hear any questions or answers tonight of what you're looking for. More than happy to connect on WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever other platforms are out there that you can find me on. Feel free to hit me up. And just I wanted to say again, thank you to everyone for being here tonight. It's very important, and I'm looking forward to some of the questions we have.
Wonderful. So once again, as a reminder, if you have a question, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on you in the order in which I see them go up. To give a minute for people to do the raise hand feature, NVP, DNP, Josh, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked the other candidates, which is if you could go anywhere, travel anywhere that you have not been before, where would you?
So I think if I could travel anywhere that I haven't been before, it would probably be Germany, generally speaking. A lot of my dad's family is from Germany. He is 100%, and I've got like third, fourth, fifth cousins that live in Germany. So it would be I see them in the States all the time, but I haven't gotten the opportunity because of all of the extensive travel I do for JCI USA to go to Germany and do that. So that's one place I would love to go.
All right, we will give a few more minutes for someone to come up with another question, but in the meantime, so as the national president, you hold there's a lot of gravitas to that title, and there's a lot of general members who think that that is way, way, way above anyone that they should have any business talking to, which is not a correct statement. However, how would you, in your year as national president, how would you encourage keeping a relationship with the general members of this organization throughout your term as national president?
Yeah, I think one of the things, most importantly, is just attitude. Attitude is 90% of it. If you have an attitude where you're acting like you're saying, Sarah, like above and beyond where a general member should be or should be interacting with, that's part of the problem. One thing, both in my professional career as well as my JCI career and my MVPs this year, my states from the previous year will tell you I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves, take the jacket off, and like figure stuff out in the trenches. And like, because at the end of the day, we need to get this stuff done. And at the end of the day, everyone on XCOM, the president, the DNP, all of the MPs, we are still members of this organization. And just because we're getting the work done or doing work for the organization doesn't mean our opinions are more important than a general member's opinion. So one of the ways that we can do that is the feedback sessions and open office hours with the executive committee. We'll see how we can fit that in with everything going on, because as you know, there's quite a lot. But as we start getting some normalcy with the new hires on board, we'll be able to figure out what time we can give back to the executive committee that, quite frankly, they don't have, because they're doing some of those things that those new hires would be doing today.
And just before I get nasty grams from the current or previous national presidents, I am not implying that our current or previous ones had an attitude that they were above. Okay, I don't need them all calling me and getting mad at me. So.
Agreed. And I will clarify that I don't think that is the case either. I'm saying we need to continue that mentality.
All righty. I don't see any other hands raised.
I think Celeste has her hand up.
Oh, Celeste does. What? All right, let's try this again. Celeste, what is your question? Sorry about that.
That's okay. No problem at all. Josh, congratulations on running. Super excited to see that. I would love to know what you're going to do to encourage the attendance for JCI USA members on the international scale, such as Conference of Americas, World Congress, etc. We are, the founding organization, but yet not a ton of representation. What are you going to do to really challenge that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is about marketing. I think this isn't something that any of us are shocked by, that sometimes our marketing efforts are less than stellar, unfortunately, at times. And I think that's something that we need to invest in, is our internal marketing. I know this year we've been working with an external marketing firm to get some external marketing up and going, that should be rolling out shortly here. But we need to really focus on the internal marketing too, making sure all of our members are clear, they understand the value and the importance of going to Conference of America, of going to World Congress, of going to other nations, annual conventions and things like that. Like I know Canada's national convention is coming up. They're like the second or third week of September. It's like a week or two before ours. It's a great opportunity to go up. I know it's over in BC, so it's not on the East Coast or like in the Midwest, but it's a short plane ride over to BC. Some nice weather over there in September for their convention. But I think it's really understanding that the same trainings and offerings and reasons why they may go to a national convention for us is there. They should also interact on the international level. So, I mean, one thing we can also do in addition to just the marketing and making sure people are aware is bringing in more international folks to regular everyday things. I know we always have people come to our national conventions. They speak, they give the speech and things like that. But I'd love to encourage more international collaboration at a state level, having some of those people come to a state level. I think we're also positioned hopefully, we have a another IVP this year from the U.S. or things like that of leveraging those folks to and share the USA story with the international folks, and they get encouraged and they get excited to come to USA events as well.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy National President Josh, for your time, especially since you being on East Coast time. I feel your pain. I also am on East Coast time, and I appreciate you staying until the end. On that note, I want to thank all of our state and national candidates for sharing their vision for 2026 and why they should be the one to get the votes for our members. As a reminder, the following candidates have certified for office. For JCI Michigan District B Director, we have Samantha Krautz and Adrian Bonella. For JCI Michigan Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Director, Celeste Ross. JCI Michigan Programming Vice President, Bobby Joe Call and Brendan Diller. JCI Michigan Membership Vice President, Tyler Roberts. And JCI Michigan State President, Jessica Anderson. On the JCI USA level, we have 6 candidates for JCI USA National Vice President. Those are Kaylee Gratz, Nick Mayrand, Abigail Schneider, Katie Nims, can't speak tonight, Joseph Barry, Kevin Clark Holmes. We have 2 candidates for JCI USA Deputy National President. Those are Eric Hyatt and Eric Gullin. And we have 1 candidate for JCI USA National President, as you just heard from current Deputy National President Josh.